Welcome to My Views Are My Own. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave a 5-star rating or a nice review. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit subscribe or the like button. If you want to contact me, you can reach me at myviewsaremyown.com or on Instagram at myviewsaremyown_podcast. That's enough. That's enough of that shit. My guest today is Samantha Ireland. Samantha Ireland was recently swept up into the heart-pounding action in Universal Pictures' epic storm disaster film Twisters. Can you tell that I'm reading? I feel like you can tell.
just a little.
Millions of anime fans will recognize her as the voice of Nora Valkyrie in the animated action adventure film and TV franchise Ruby, spelled RWBY. I just learned today that it's pronounced Ruby, though. She also works as a producer and filmmaker on her own personal projects that we will definitely get to later. What's up, Samantha?
Hi, thanks for having me. I
Thanks,
appreciate it.
thanks for being here. I'm so glad the reading part's over. That
Yeah.
was I was I was clearly struggling. I was like, she was in a movie.
One of
Okay.
those picture things on that you look at on a wall.
Before we get into movies, I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I don't want to get labeled as one, but I just had this thought recently and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it too.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the song Ironic by Alanis Morissette?
Yes.
Do you think that maybe she knew when she was writing the song that she knew that the examples that she was giving were not really good examples of irony? And in fact, like some of those examples weren't ironic at all. And that is why the song itself is the most ironic song ever.
Yeah. I mean,
Is that not an
I,
original thought? I
I
thought I was the
well,
first person to think that.
I feel like, I don't know how old you are, but I'm a certain age. Like we talk about Alanis Morissette all the time. And we talked about this like literally in high school, even. We are like, that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So I think that sounds about right. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, isn't that ironic? And my husband's like, no. Like, well, maybe I don't know what irony is, but
and, and maybe I don't either. I do know that like I've listened to that song a lot, and I'm like, well, that's not an example of irony. That's just an example of a bad turn of events where it's just
yeah,
something just
exactly.
negative happens, like where a guy gets on an airplane and then the plane crashes. That's not ironic.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like there needs to be more to the story for it actually to make it ironic. It
yeah,
just, yeah, like again, it's just unfortunate events happening. And so,
it would be ironic
um,
if he had flown on what was like advertised as the safest airplane of all time, and then that
yes,
airplane failed.
yes.
There'd be some irony there. Or I would say like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife. That's more of just a bizarre situation.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's like that's unheard of. No, that's someone in a psych ward. That's what's really going
yeah,
on.
because whenever I hear that, I always just imagine like she's like, oh, I really need a knife, and she's like maybe at a catering company,
Yeah.
and all she can find is the spoon section. I
Yeah.
don't
Or like
All right. You know what? We'll leave it at it's not a conspiracy theory anymore, it's conspiracy fact. Alanis
yeah.
Morissette did that on purpose to make the most ironic song of all time, and no one will ever be able to beat it.
Well, no, exactly. And no one can beat Alanis Morissette. Like, I mean, voice of an angel and everything about her. She's too cool. And
Oh
I
yeah.
love it. I love everything about her. I love that she's also kind of having a resurgency like on TikTok, just from like some of her, um, at least on my FYP, that like people who have, Gen Zers that haven't really heard her music before and like hearing her sing and it's like raw and it's insane and gorgeous. So it's been kind of cool to see some of the musicians that were really important when I was growing up kind of have like they're coming back again,
Yeah.
like it's not like they ever went away at all. Like some of them are still making music. But like like Jewel, Matchbox 20, and like they're
Oh
all
yeah.
coming back and like looking back at their like music careers, and like the Goo Goo Dolls, like have never left. They've always toured, you know, and so it's just really cool to see like younger generations get really kind of into that music because, you know, I was born in 87, but like 90s, like that time, like that the music that we listened to on the radio was, I don't know, I feel like it was very, very influential in like TV, film, and you know, it was more of like a big thing. So nowadays there's so much that's like it's saturated on all different levels, you know, like there's so much of everything that it's really hard to kind of have that same phenomenon that some of those songs would have
Yeah.
in during that time in like the 90s and early 2000s. It
You know,
still happens, but it's
saw
rare.
I saw a tweet recently that I loved. I can't ascribe it to whoever wrote it. Sorry, whoever on Twitter wrote this tweet, but they said, "Welcome to your 40s. Kroger is the DJ at Kroger is playing all your favorite songs."
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Like if it's, I mean, if I'm in Publix and like it's if it's
Yeah,
yacht rock or if or if it's just man, two early 2000s hits, like I am gelling. Everything is good. And I'm like,
it's funny too
I,
what you said about Matchbox 20 because I feel like yeah, like they kind of disappeared, and then Barbie
yeah.
came out, and because like
Yes.
when Barbie Radio turns into Ken Radio, and it's just Matchbox 20,
Yes.
and, like, and it's insulting to the band because what they're trying to say is that their music only applies to very one-dimensional men, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It just shot them right back into stardom.
It did. And that's the thing. Like, I think, and I don't think it was like all of us loved Matchbox 20. Like, women loved Matchbox 20. My mom was obsessed with Matchbox 20. I mean, once Maroon 5 came in, she was like, all right, get out of here. But you know, I loved that. Man, I loved that moment in Barbie. I loved Barbie overall. Like, I absolutely loved that movie. We did the Barbenheimer that day, a couple of girlfriends and I, and we all said like, this is the best day of the year. Like it was amazing. So
I did a very special podcast on just me and my friend Zach went to go watch it and came back here immediately and did like it was is a little bit like it was. I mean, we both enjoyed the movie, but there was so much media, especially from here. So I live in
yep.
Nashville, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the freakiest people that were saying that like Barbie was like made by the devil, and like a lot of the pastors around here, uh, they come from like this state. So we were able to be like
Wow.
particularly embarrassed by our home state. But
Oh,
I think we did a really tasteful, air quotes, tasteful job of reading those articles and maybe debunking some of that. But yo, we're not here to talk about Barbie because guess what?
no.
Yesterday, I went to the movie theater, and last night I saw Twisters, your latest film, Twisters, and I loved it.
Good.
Uh,
I'm
and
glad.
here's the thing though, I was prepared to love it because so I guess it's already been out for like a week or two. So like there's
Yeah.
already been people being like, holy shit, like everybody uh speaking of tweets I like, there was one, and I can't do this verbatim, but I do want to just this tweet kind of like really got me amped even more. It was somebody they're like Twisters was better than it had any right to be. Uh they said Glenn Powell had charisma with everyone, including the Storms. And they're like,
Yes, I think I
and
saw
this
this tweet.
and they're like they said the movie was so good it made you wish Oklahoma was a real place.
No, I'm not like I have a girlfriend she's chronically online like I am, but I got off of Twitter 2 years ago, which I kind of regret every day because she sends me such good stuff on Twitter every day. But she has been inundating me with like the best memes, the best quotes, the best. I mean, everyone is like really excited about this movie. Like even my cinephile friends that the ones that like they just can't stand to like anything that everyone else likes
Yeah.
is a very handful of my friends, small handful, but they even enjoyed it, you know,
Yeah.
like because
Yeah.
it's so man, that first Twister, that was such an important film to me. I grew up in Texas, and my my dad was a hunter, and we would go to this place that for the longest time until I was an adult, I thought it was just called the Dearlies, like a person's name, until I realized, oh no, it's called a deer lease because multiple people rent like the small home
Oh,
to go and hunt over a weekend or a week or what have you. And
oh, like
so
like a timeshare for hunting.
yes, exactly. And like us as kids, like I'm not getting my ass up and going hunting with my dad. I never like I think maybe did it once and I was like never again. And like so we would stay in this like very basic house, and all we had to do was play outside or watch the three VHSs that we had, and one of them is A League of Their Own. Another one is oh my gosh, what is it called? Thunder Oh, like Thunder, like Days of Thunder, the
Oh yeah.
Tom Cruise NASCAR. My dad's super into NASCAR, and then Twister. And so we would just constantly watch those three movies. Eventually, like other films got in there, but like that movie was so important to me, and it still is to this day. Like we went to New Zealand 2 summers ago. My husband and I had to go as a guest for a Comic-Con, and we went early to go explore. And we were in the North Island in Auckland, and I have a girlfriend from my childhood who's been living in Australia for like I think now 11 years. And so she and her boyfriend, they visited us in New Zealand. And so we did some traveling. And the first night in our Airbnb, we turned on the Netflix account that we were able to get into, and it was Twister. And I whipped right to him and I was like, have you seen this? Have you ever seen this? He's like, I don't even know what this movie is about. And I was like, we are watching it
What?
right now. And
That's
like, I'm
that's like
like,
saying you haven't seen Jurassic Park, or
yes,
like
exactly.
it's like
Like
when.
to me, exactly. I'm like, I'm also flabbergasted because he works in like climate change things. And so to me, I'm like,
Oh wow.
how have you not watched this movie? And
Yeah.
so I forced everyone to watch it like right then and there. And I was like, and like watching it as an adult, it's so much of it's just like, God, this is so silly, but it's so good. Like
Yeah.
everything about it, like the pacing, the characters, the dialogue. I mean, the music, the going after the actual tornado chasing. It's all so exhilarating, and all of the scenes, like the stakes are always so high. And as like an audience member, like the first time I saw it was on a tiny screen, and I was always just so like in it as a
Yeah.
kid, and just everything was so terrifying to me about it. And I was like, I feel like we all became like little baby meteorologists,
Oh,
like
that's
when we were like,
100%. Like for when I saw Twister when I was a kid, like I was like, I want to be a meteorologist now. And
yes.
it's funny that I said Jurassic Park because when I first watched Jurassic Park, I was like, I want to be a paleontologist. That's like that is my career path. Like, let's
Yes,
go ahead and
that's
start working
it.
towards that. Like, let's get me into like on track to whatever school.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
I guess Twisters came out like a couple years later than that, and I was like,
Yeah.
actually, I want to be a meteorologist.
No, I'm changing it all.
I want to
Changing
chase
all my
Twisters.
posters on my wall, and I'm like, but it's so
So
true that those like so many of those films were such huge influences on like us as kids, but like pop culture. It's like they're true iconic films. And so when I to know that I get to be in like this sequel that everyone on the internet was like, we don't need this. This doesn't need to exist. But seeing how everyone was like, well, it does exist. And this is actually really amazing and fun. Like I think we're just in a place where we just really need to escape.
yeah,
And for me, I haven't really been drawn to the movie theaters in a while for big blockbusters. It's been a really long time. Like I've been going for a lot of indies. I've been going for a lot. Like I've been probably going to the movies so much more in the last 3 years of my life, basically when you could go back, like after COVID.
yeah,
And I've not been drawn just because like I'm not into the Marvel universe. I've maybe seen two of those films, but they're huge. And now that I live in Atlanta, so now I really have to like get into knowing more about that and watching those films. But like nothing has really like tugged at me to go see. But when I heard that they were going to be making a Twisters film, even just like as an actor, I always am I'm on the pulse of like what's going to be made soon. I love reading. I'm on IMDb Pro every day. It's kind of like my news. I'm always on there like at the beginning of the day and the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I just like to know who's working on what, who's transferred to what kind of genre of filmmaking, especially when like you see like this one filmmaker do really well at Sundance and then you want to see what they're doing next. So just to me, it's like research is like as an actor, I also do it just because I love to know more. So when I heard that they were doing this film, like just secretly deep down, I was like, oh, that would be incredible if I
Yeah.
could get an audition for that.
Yeah.
Um, and you know,
Because yeah,
it's so
because
funny.
they were originally going to shoot in Atlanta, right? So you would have been, I think,
Yeah, I didn't know that. I read that recently that they
yeah,
were going to do it in
I think
Atlanta.
Isaac Chung fought the studio to get on location in Oklahoma because he had to take some hits for that too. I think he had to they told him he had to like cut back on shooting days, cut back on
Mhm.
action sequences, which is kind of incredible. Like having seen the movie, like
That's
the amount of
insane to know that
action.
that's what they cut back. They cut back on
Oh,
action sequences.
you
Like
know,
what?
actually, I have to say something really quick before we go any further,
Yes.
because now we're talking twisters, and I want to let anyone know if you haven't seen the movie,
Right.
we will. This may contain this will certainly contain some spoilers. I'm not going to say anything like, and then the movie ends like this. I
Yes,
won't do. Okay,
exactly.
that's but that's as far as I can promise. Is I won't say exactly how the movie ends, but there's too much to talk about, and so much of it is a bit of a surprise. Or I think there are certain scenes that are so iconic to me in it that I'm like that. I would have been bummed if I already knew what was going to happen. Uh,
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
so
I've been putting like a spoiler thing up for anything I've shared. I'm like, if you haven't watched the movie, you don't really want to know anything about it. Don't don't watch this. Don't read this. Like,
yeah,
please. Like,
but
I don't want to be that person.
I mean, at the same time, like there have been times where I've listened to people talk about a film like kind of in depth that I haven't seen yet, and it made me want to watch it. Like there's been especially like
Yeah.
older films that were like classics that I never got around to, and
Yeah.
then I heard an in depth analysis, and I'm like, oh well, now I have to see this classic film from like 1973 that I've never got on my list. So
Yeah.
hey guys, maybe just listen to the spoilers and then and then go be on the edge of your seat. Uh,
Yeah.
so I want to start out with maybe just like with some of the scenes and some of what I think makes them work so well. And
Yeah.
but I don't want to start with the motel scene. Uh, but I will say uh, you are incredible in that scene. I loved it. I would go as far as to say, I mean, the competition is like stiff for most intense scene in that movie because it
Yeah.
starts out with like oh my god, like I can't believe they just did that scene, and
Yeah.
then it gets ever increasingly insane. uh but we'll come back to the motel scene, which
Okay.
is a scene where you may or may not survive. But
Exactly.
I did want to ask, so like that scene aside, what do you have a favorite scene in the movie? Like one that like really stood out to you as just being like powerful or fun or
The first one, easily, hands down. Like I was very fortunate enough to go to the LA premiere. That first scene, I'm getting chills just thinking about it because the juxtaposition of how it begins and then how we end.
yeah,
And I've been saying this, but I mean, so he goes by Isaac, but Lee Isaac Chung, he just knows how to frame a shot. Like he knows how to hit you where you need to be. Especially with like someone going through turmoil and that last shot of her like walking through and like we see her leg and just like I mean the devastation around her
yeah,
and knowing that like the very beginning is them together and it's jovial and it's exciting and it's like and it's childlike. It's truly childlike
yeah,
and it gets you excited and you like if especially if you've seen the first one, you kind of get into it. You get into the state of like excitement. And like if you've seen the trailer, you know something is coming. You do. Like you know when it's
yeah,
coming, but you don't know how. And for me, like I was also watching the movie to see if my 10-year-old could handle it because he is like I want to see this movie, Mom. You're in it. And like he's seen the first one. And so uh, I'm not gonna lie, after I saw that first scene, I was like, can my kid
And
handle that scene? Like
I would
that
describe
is
it as yeah, like saying Isaac Chung with the ability to like frame a scene because so the opening scene of the movie and just like from start also the amazing shout out to like throwback to Twister, they have Dorothy again,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
which also shout out to Bill Paxton, rest in peace, my
Yeah.
probably my favorite actor of all time, I'm not
One
gonna
of
lie.
my favorite of all time too. And I met his son and I didn't even realize that he was Bill Paxton's son. And
Oh
I just
wow.
felt like a dumb. But yeah, like I don't think James ever does understand how much like I literally was talking about Bill Paxton in a podcast the night before with a friend of mine. We were talking about Apollo 13 and I gushed over Bill Paxton and knowing and I was working on set the next day. Like I had just gone to Oklahoma City. So yeah, everything about Bill Paxton and then seeing Dorothy and everything, you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes you feel warm
Yeah.
inside. I don't know
No,
what it is.
it brought me back to my childhood and the fact that I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say Bill Paxton was my favorite actor of all time. It happened at an early age. I saw the movie Aliens.
Oh
I
yeah.
was probably a little bit too
A
young to
little
see
too
it,
young.
but who cares? Dude, back when I was a kid, they used to market R-rated films like with toys to like especially to
Yes.
boys. So they were always selling Aliens toys like at like Toys R Us and KB, and I was like, well, I got to see the movie. And then
Yeah.
and Bill Paxton's character Hudson in Aliens, fell in love with that character, everything about him. I was like, this is like, even to my young mind, I was like, this is the greatest performance I've ever seen.
But he's so good. He's so good in everything. And
Yeah.
he's just so authentic. And he's also like so different. Like,
Yeah.
and I just like, I've always was so impressed with him. Always so impressed with him. And like the older I get and the more filmography I see of his, I'm like, geez, Louise, he really was
Yeah.
such a like a triumphant
Yeah.
like actor. I don't know. Like and again, he was like a warm blanket to me
Yeah.
anytime I saw him in things. And so yeah, that
Yeah.
first scene when you see Dorothy and like you I don't know, it brings you back. It's nostalgia hits you so quickly. At least for me, it did.
And that's actually what I wanted to bring up with like you said, like how the director framed the film and but even scenes within scenes. So this
Yeah.
opening scene, it could have been a short film. You could have stopped it
Yeah.
right there and been like, I'm putting this on the short film circuit, and people would have lost their
Their
fucking minds.
minds.
Because
Yeah.
uh, so, and I want to say, like, I'm trying to think of like something in it. One thing it actually reminds me of a little bit is something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's a group of young friends. Everything is happy, everything's fun. They're out
Yeah.
exploring. Life is an adventure, and then and then a moment of like not a moment, but like a series of terror and like events happen, and one by one, everyone
Yeah.
is killed, and then the scene of Kate, kind of like the main character of the film, or
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of hard to say.
I
I feel like this,
I think she's definitely the main character. I mean,
yeah,
she's the catalyst of why we even go to Oklahoma. Like she could have just been
yeah,
like, "No, I'm not going, Javi." Like I'm like,
yeah.
"Peace out," and then the movie would be over.
Oh, I wanted to say
She's
one other to a different film. I feel like there was a little bit of some Twilight in there, like uh, team uh, Team Tyler or Team
team
Javi.
Tyler.
Because you don't find out at first, but Javi has a bit of a burning flame for Kate, and
Yeah.
Tyler, he kind of like you don't see it at first, but anyway, like I said, so she's walking out of the rubble, she's covered in
Yeah.
blood, she's injured, and
Yeah.
like one lonely police car rolls up, and I was like, that is exactly how you would end a Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Yeah,
movie.
that is definitely a last girl standing. Like
Yeah,
that is exactly how you frame that. And it's I just thought everything like you see the devastation around her and the look on her face, like the absolute shock of all of it. And we see how bad her leg is. And then just like, I don't know, it's at like when we watched it at the premiere, it was silent. It was absolutely silent in the theater. And like, that happened again at the end of my scene at the motel too. It was absolutely silent. And that's when you know that's just effective storytelling
Yeah.
right then and there. And so that first scene for me, hands down, is like my favorite scene other than my own scene. So
Oh, which I said we will totally. I there are elements of your scene that I want to talk about so much, like so much more than the humans in it.
mhm.
Actually, you know what? Well, we'll skip to your. Okay, can I just say the one that
Yeah.
I
Yeah. What is yours?
okay, so this is short. This is not like the opening scene where it's very like this is like it's just a moment within like I think it's the town of Reno is getting hit by like
Hmm.
the storm of the century, I think they called it or something. Uh
Yeah.
so they're in a movie theater. I'm in a movie theater.
Yeah.
I'm sitting like I was sitting pretty close up. I was like, just a few rows from the screen, and there's and I'm whoever thought to like I don't know if this was in the script originally or if maybe uh Isaac Chung like just thought, hey, this would be cool, or if I don't know whose idea this was, but cool ass idea, especially for people that are in the theater. So you're in a movie theater looking at people in a movie theater, and then you're looking at the movie screen that they're looking at, and then the
Yeah.
storm rips the wall away
Yeah.
that's holding the movie screen and starts sucking people out into the sky.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I hate to use this word, especially now that like Facebook is called Meta, but it
Yeah,
has,
I
but
know, but it is.
but it's a meta. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It took me out of the movie for a moment because I was like,
Yeah.
because it was so cool that I had to like appreciate it for what it was rather
Yeah.
than just feel it and enjoy it. But
Yeah.
having said that, it's one of those things that where it was the payoff was like to be taken out of the film for a second to appreciate that uh kind of like trick of like, hey, you're in a movie theater. What if a tornado just ripped you out of here right now? Like, I just thought that
Yeah,
was
and
magical.
I think my husband sent me an article that actually that did happen somewhere in Kansas or something.
Oh,
That there I think it's an IndieWire article or something, but there was a movie theater that the screen got ripped out from a tornado, and so you see the frame of the movie, but the screen is ripped, and you see the town's devastation behind it. So like and I didn't read the article because, like, honestly, I was like, he was sending me articles. My friends were, I was like,
yeah.
I was like constantly reading. And so, but I was like, oh my gosh, that imagery is so haunting.
Yeah.
And because you can see all of the houses that were just like destroyed, like everything behind it, the buildings. And in the title, but I don't know if this is actual clickbait, or if it's actually what happened, but that was an inspiration for the theater scene, that what took place at this particular town with the movie theater and the screen getting ripped out by the tornado. It was a really beautiful image though, like beautiful and haunting. Yeah, and I love how like Dexter's like, we got to get everybody into the theaters, like out in the street, and we're like, but we really do. We gotta make this. We gotta make money. We got people to see this movie. So
Yeah.
I loved all of it. And like we were kind of giggling at the premiere about those things. Like there were so many, and I will say you can tell who was like a real Twister fan too, because I was cackling at things nobody else around me was cackling at because of
Yeah.
like little callbacks here and there. And there were definitely meteorologists in the crowd as well. Like the original
Oh yeah.
meteorologist for the film was there on the red carpet and for Twister, and he knew everybody. And but there were storm chasers. There had to have been people because I mean they were laughing at things and like nobody else was laughing. And it was like technical jargon, especially when Dexter, I loved Dexter's character. So like Tunde, who played Dexter, I loved that character so much. He was when they were looking at the twin tornadoes,
Oh,
and they
that's
started
my favorite joke. My favorite joke of the whole movie. No, no,
like,
okay. So I'm going to tell you this. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. I was
oh,
watching
but
the
go
movie
on.
and I was like, oh shit, that's me. That's me. Because so I'm sorry. I know I'm interrupting you, but like, it's so ironic that you would bring up. I think maybe because they bring out some jokes in the movie. There's some laughs, but
Yeah.
it's not corny. And that one is so perfect, especially for someone like me but I just say, because the part where he's like,
Yeah.
he's not living in the moment, like he's driving towards two tornadoes, and instead of, and I think someone like slaps him, they're like, hey man, just enjoy, appreciate this, enjoy what you're doing, because
Yes.
he's going, there's a name for this, there's a name for this, and he keeps saying it, and he, I don't know how many precious moments in life I have wasted going, there's a word I want.
Yes. No, it's like, but it perfectly like encapsulated people that are who are storm chasers. They're like they're in the moment, but they're not. They're thinking about like everything else with it, you know,
Yeah,
and like not like maybe the true devastation that's kind of like happening to some things, but like it's I mean, you could just hear like little laughter through it once he finally discovered what it was, and he's like, that's it, that's what it's called. And it was such a, I don't know, it was a rewarding moment, I guess, because he got that and then he could like focus again. But it's so it to me that it was moments like that and the supporting cast that like really made this movie, I think,
yeah,
just like push it over the edge. But that's what the first one did. It was
yeah.
all of those side characters. It was all of those little relationships and their little quirks and the way that they were and how they were with one another, how they interacted. Like that's what made it feel like we were really just hopping in and becoming storm chasers for that short time.
Yeah.
That's what I
And
loved about
and
the first one.
I love, actually, this is actually one of the things about the film. Sorry, I said we were immediately going to go to your scene, but before we
No, it's fine.
I want to bring up, I just thought was I love when a movie can trick me, like a kind of like how M. Night Shyamalan used to really trick me all the time,
Yeah.
and I'd go, "What? He was dead the whole time?" Like that,
Yes,
and
exactly.
there's nothing quite that extreme in Twisters, but there is. I mean, it caught me off guard. It blew me away. It was so you meet the what are they called? The tornado Wrangler crew.
Yeah.
It's
Tornado Wranglers
so
crew. Yeah.
yeah, so Tyler, he shows up. He's I instantly I hated him. I hated him so much. I hated his crew, because I was like, this fucking redneck is gonna ruin science, and he because at this point you still truly believe that the that Stormpar is like, they're out there to save the world, and you think that
Hmm.
Tyler and his ragtag crew are a bunch of yahoos ruining science, and
Yeah, just getting views. That's all they want, you
all
know?
yeah,
And
all they want is clicks, and they don't care about people. And the way they made me U-turn on him and everyone in his group, and then like start to like really care about them, and
yeah,
then start to truly dislike some of the people, some of the PhDs on the other side. I thought that was it was a twist I did not expect. I thought he was the villain, because I didn't like read any reviews. I just went into it
that's
like,
amazing. And like to me, I didn't get the full script. You don't get the full script when you're just an actor that only works for so long. And I'm assuming that's probably for all projects of that size and caliber. But I knew I knew that Tyler was good just from context clues of the things that they gave me.
yeah,
And from my years of like script analysis and everything. And just and then we did the scene right after the devastation and Javi comes in. I didn't get any of that script, but I can hear them talking. I can hear what their lines are saying. So to me, I'm like, okay, I don't know where also this tornado is in, because I don't know how long is the full script. I don't know. Is this a catalyst tornado? I felt like it was a catalyst tornado for Kate specifically, because she gets in the truck and she drives off. So like I saw all of that when we were doing when we were filming those moments, and you could just tell that like there was a turn at one point. But for me, I was like, I didn't know where their place was in the story. I didn't really know. All I knew was the things that I knew from filming and then seeing the trailers. And I'm like, okay, I think we're gonna have like a turn somewhere. We're gonna have a turn. Cause then like there's like, to me, when I was watching it, I knew that he had a crush on her. Like he had something. Like he was
yeah,
intrigued by her immediately. And to me, when there is a man who puts on a show and he's intrigued by someone, that means he's got something, and like teases a little bit. But I think he wants to know who this person is,
yeah,
because everyone's looking at her. And he's like, why is everyone looking at her from Storm Par? What makes her special? And then she goes off, and I think he's so intrigued by her. And it was something my husband and I both loved about it, how much he dotes on her, like as the film goes on, and he's just like looking at her with almost like a doe eye, like when they're both looking at the tornado, and he's like,
Yeah.
she's perfect, and she's like, she's gorgeous, and like he looks at her, and I'm just like, I'm like a puddle. I'm like, I love it. I love this little
Yeah.
romantic thing that we have going on. Like
I
I'm
like
I'm digging it. So
he's one of those people who nicknames everyone. So when she says she's from New York, she's City Girl until she
yeah.
finally admits that she's from Sepulpa.
Yeah. Sepulpa. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
like
but actually that was one thing that also got me a little bit, which I wonder if uh Isaac Chung thought about this at all, because I know he did The Mandalorian and he must be
mm-hmm.
pretty well immersed in Star Wars stuff. And one of the worst, most villainous people in Star Wars is a guy named Sebulba. And it actually kept making
Oh.
and I've never heard of Sepulpa, Oklahoma, so I just kept hearing it just kept sounding like Sebulba to me. That's neither here
Oh,
nor
that's
there.
interesting. Oh, yeah. No, no, no. I don't know. That's interesting. And I don't know Oklahoma that well at all. My husband was stationed there at Fort Lawton for a while, but like I only really knew Oklahoma City, and that's it. Like that's what I really think about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, there's Tulsa too. Like, and I don't have a clue where it is. And I grew up in Texas. Like that's how little I thought about Oklahoma growing up. So I'm like,
Oklahoma's
um,
getting a lot of shine right now because Sylvester Stallone's got that Tyler Sheridan
well,
show.
actually, that moved away. It's filming here now in Atlanta. So I don't
Oh,
know.
that's what a bummer. They shouldn't have
I
done that.
know. I don't really understand why. I don't know if it was an incentive thing. It doesn't seem like it would be, because
I think
Oklahoma,
it's
I think maybe that Sylvester Stallone wasn't thrilled filming there anymore.
yeah.
And maybe that's why they moved. I don't, that could be hearsay, or I could have misread that somewhere, but I felt like he just wanted to go somewhere else. So they were filming, they filmed the first two seasons there. But then now they've been filming the third season out here in Atlanta.
Oh,
Yeah,
shoot.
and Taylor Sheridan's got a couple more shows going out to Texas now, rather than where I think where they were doing 1923. Now they're in Texas for that, filming in Texas for 1923. So
I wonder if it's too late for me to like drive down to Atlanta, see if I can get a role as a henchman. Because
right.
I would love to get beat up by Sylvester Stallone. That would be like a shit bucket list, man.
I feel like a lot of people probably feel that way too.
Uh, I
you
would
know,
I would let him hit me for real. I'd be like, like I mean, I'm not a
just do
professional
it. Just
stuntman,
do
but
it.
just hit me, dude, and put it on camera. All right, but there was a good segue a while back, and I just veered off the freeway onto a completely,
Oh, I
huge
do. I
tangent.
do it all the time. So
But
we're good.
we were talking about when you start to find out that Tyler is a good dude, because I think he's like a Yahoo. I want to knock his stupid cowboy hat off his head. I just can't stand him. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, he's going to like the sites of disasters, giving out free food, he's helping people. Like, okay, and there's hints, and then you see that Javi's like they're like looking at ways to like buy up land cheap and sell it to this
Yeah.
awful corporate scumbag. So like this, it's already shifting. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
that the motel scene, which we're getting into, like you are in the scene where he fully becomes a heroic figure.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, hands down. Like he is saving people's lives, or and attempting to save people's lives.
yeah,
So um yeah, that was so, I mean, the whole experience of it, like, so we did actually film more too. There was a scene that got cut. And there was a moment that as they're walking, when he goes to her motel room and says, I want to show you something. There was a moment that we filmed, and this was before the strikes, in July of last year. I flew out there, and I was there for like about 2-3 days. And it was my first night filming. And so we did this scene, and where they see us, we see each other. I'm with my daughter, and we're on like a little merry-go-round in front of the office. And Kate and the little girl kind of have a moment, and they look at each other, and he tips his hat to me. He says, good evening, ma'am. And like, it's just like a small little moment. And
yeah.
and I wasn't sure if it was going to be in the film because when we filmed it, it was pretty late by the time we got to our part. We did all night shoots, obviously, but children actors can't work past midnight, and so I wasn't sure if we just didn't get enough coverage, or there were a couple there were a couple of things. I was like, did we not get enough coverage? Did not serve the story well enough to be in the final cut. I honestly, I felt like it could have, just because it brings us back to the humanity. That's like what that storm is about, is to bring humanity into it, because they haven't, at that point, we'd seen the first one, right?
Yeah.
And we saw storm chasers and the devastation. But then the next time, like, we see devastation of a storm, they weren't in it with those people. They weren't in it with, they just saw all of these people's homes gone and everything just absolutely riddled in debris. And they have that, like, they have the big, not a big blowout or anything, but they're pissed at each other. They don't understand one another at that point.
Yeah.
And then when they come together and they see a community, and that's where we start to actually humanize these storms. And so I thought it definitely did serve the purpose to keep that scene in. But at the same time, I was talking to the little girl's mom recently after I went to the premiere. She asked me, like, did they keep that scene in? I said, no, they cut it. And she was like, honestly, I feel like it's my daughter's fault, because when we filmed that scene, it was in July, and then the strike happened literally the next day. So we all
Oh
had to go
wow.
home. Like, we were all done, and they had like 15 days left of filming. And so, which kills me for them, because I'm like, I'm on indie sets a lot, so I can only imagine like having to stop a huge production like this and having to do it back up. They've probably been filming for over a year off and on and everything. And so we get a call in November. Okay, we're back on after the strikes are over. In October, I believe, is when we went back on. And so we get a call, and then they're like, okay, we want you out. Like, I think it was like a week and a half later. I missed my son turning 10 years old. I missed his birthday. I was like in
Oh.
Oklahoma City. And so but everyone was so sweet on the crew about it. And so when we went back to filming, her daughter had grown like 3 inches. She had lost her front tooth. She lost her, like, one of her first teeth. And she was like, I think it's because my daughter looked so different.
Yeah.
His kids looked so different in
Yeah. Yeah.
like 3 months time. And so
Yeah.
but she cracked me up. She was like, I think it's my kid's fault. And I was like, no, it's fine. And but so we did film that. And then so when we went back, and we were there in December filming for summer, and that it was cold. It was like a cold that hit you to the bone.
Yeah.
And it was pretty wild. And I will say, so my audition scenes looked very different than what the pages I got eventually. And then as the pages go on, you get different color pages. And on my goldenrod pages, I had like no lines. And I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be in this movie and I'm not going to say anything. But at least I get to be in action sequences. So, but that's not really how it kind of turned out, though. Like, there was very much like Isaac very much was like, I want you guys improving. Like, we know the meat of the story. This is what's happening, and this is what's happening. And, you know,
Yeah, and the scene feels so very real. Oh,
it, ex-
can I
exactly. It's
I have
so real.
I have two thoughts on the things that you just said.
Yeah.
One, and to be completely and frankly honest, I would have loved, obviously, for you to have been in the film more, and for them
Hmm.
to have developed your character more. That would have It would have made sense too, because you would have cared more
Yeah.
about, in the when you guys are hiding in an empty swimming pool, hoping that
Yeah.
you don't get scooped out by it'd be like, I mean, you do care. It feels very real, but like, yeah, I could see the value of having developed you and your daughter in that, so that, just for more visceral caring about the characters.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, I want to really hand it to the editors and the director for I just really appreciate it these days, especially when filmmakers can land the plane in under 2 hours. It's just
Yes,
and
exactly.
it's complete. It was a 100% complete film when it was over.
Hmm.
I didn't have questions. There weren't
Right.
like things where I was like, hey, they started a story and they didn't finish it.
Yeah.
It's like it was a perfectly encapsulated film, and that is something that I just, because a lot of times now I feel like I don't know why it is, but sometimes a lot of filmmakers now they think they can't tell their story without adding like a third hour to it. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to like, the original Twister and that whole era of, big blockbuster movies in the early 90s, people were pulling those off in 90 minutes left and right.
Yeah. Like,
And
no,
that's just
exactly. An hour and a half, and we were in and out and we were
yeah.
satisfied.
Great,
And
and
I,
great editing, and you could
yeah.
watch it over and over again, and it wasn't like, also a great thing about a 90-minute movie is uh it's not a gigantic commitment to watch it twice, because you're not like
Hmm.
oh well, my entire evening will be watching this movie that does have like, let's, possibly 45 minutes of extraneous storyline, or I don't know. I
Yeah,
so
no. But I hear you on that. And to me, I'm like, when I look at it from a filmmaker's perspective, it still got the point across. Like, we still got it because where she goes to next, she goes to see her mom. She goes and sees her mom after that. And
yeah,
like, because I think that's what we were supposed to, I think we were supposed to remind her of her past. We were
yeah,
supposed to remind her of why she started doing this to begin with, and like, and the connection she has to this place, and being one of these people, and being a survivor, the guilt of surviving and everything. Like, we were supposed to have her go see her mom after, and also the lines that I say mirroring the same lines as like her boyfriend in the beginning, as they're like, he's about to die, and
yeah,
saying, I've got you, we're going to be okay, I've got you. And then my character saying that same thing, even though like it, like, unless you're paying attention, I knew, like, I was wondering why Isaac wanted me to say those particular words. And so I wasn't sure if there was like a flashback with her mom or something. I wasn't really sure who, like, what it was. And then when I saw the movie, I was like, oh my God, it's his lines. Oh,
yeah,
that's so devastating. So like, I got chills thinking about it. And I wasn't sure if like just any moviegoer who's not, you know, who's not like us, who are going to analyze things and who are going to remember things and all, you know what I mean? Like, I watch a movie and I'm not just watching a movie.
yeah,
And so, and it was so lovely to have my friends who came up to me. They're like, oh my God, you said the same thing as him in the beginning of the movie. That was like, I was so pivotal for her. And I was like, yeah, it was. And so like, for me, it was so rewarding to like, even though like, yeah, I'm not I'm not in this movie more than like 5 freaking minutes, right? But but the scene is so important for her story and
yeah.
their story, and
And
for what happens, you
And
know?
I wanted to, so my second thought was something you said a while back too, where you said humanizing,
Yeah.
like the storms. And I wanted, so this is completely different than what you meant by that, but in the or the motel scene, which also it starts at a rodeo. Uh
Right.
but what I thought was so incredible, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. 'Cause like you, I don't just watch a movie. I also, like, if I see something, I'm like, oh, that's cool what they're doing there. Like,
Hmm.
I know that a lot of thought went into that. And this was, I think, before this part, they didn't make any of the tornadoes seem sentient, or as though
Yeah.
they had a mind, or that they were like a monster.
Yeah.
I have an analogy I can think of is the last scene in Saving Private Ryan. There's
Mm,
a German tank
yeah.
that's heading towards them, and like they are, ill-equipped to fight this tank. And what they did, they made the tank growl. They gave it like animal sounds, made it seem like a giant predator. It's to try and kind of like affect that your amygdala, like as a
Yeah.
viewer, you're like, oh no, a monster's coming, even though it's just a
Yeah.
machine. And the thing about a tornado, it's just a weather event, but they kept there was some visually incredible. So they would have lightning appear behind the storm, and so you would just see the
Yeah.
silhouette of
Uh-huh.
a you know a massive force of death. In
Yeah.
addition to that, the people that were doing the sound effects, they were making it roar. I mean, they were making it make sounds like maybe almost semi-human. Um,
Yeah.
and I just want to know, like, I just I'm curious, what are your thoughts on like them choosing to be like, hey, let's make this storm, like let's make it into a character.
Well, I think I watched the Anatomy of a Scene of the New York Times does, and Isaac did our scene. He did our motel scene. And he was saying how night tornadoes are so terrifying. And I've never even really thought about that. Honestly, I haven't, because I've never really been in a situation where I had to hunker down at night or anything. Like maybe when I was a kid, but like it never really felt like it was going to ever happen where I lived growing up. Um, but that is true. Like you can't see what's coming for you. And I think that like making it that way, I think it's hard not to like, I think in a situation where you feel so out of control, where you feel like you have no power, all you can do is what you can do and to protect yourself. But there's this being that's so much greater than you that can literally destroy everything and everyone in yourself like that if it wanted to.
Yeah.
And so to me, like it's the monster movie. It is the monster movie where you feel like you have no power. And I thought, first off, I remember when I did ADR here in Atlanta. And when I went to the studio, the sound guy that who ran my session on my side, he was thrilled to be working with the particular sound designer that was on the film. And he just said, man, that's the man. That is the guy. He does everything and anything that's incredible. And so knowing like, I forget his name, but his name is Bjork. And he's I think it's Lucas, not Lucas, or it's like Skywalker sound. And but he was saying how he's like, we have all these little tricks. We have all these little tricks that we can do to make things just sound exactly the way that we want to make them sound. And so to me, I think I felt like, when we were watching the tornadoes before, besides the first one, that one just didn't feel like it was out to get them. It just felt like it was just a big mistake, right? It felt like it
Yeah.
was just one big mistake. And then the next ones we see, they're in a field, they're far away from people, they're going to them. So like it feels so like disconnected. But then we see this thing that like is literally like hundreds of people are running, animals are running away from it, like
Yeah.
like even like I think bringing animals into it, like that also kind of, because they know more than humans do, they
Yeah.
sense more than we do, and so the danger that they're feeling, and so we as an audience we're experiencing this gradual chaos of these people and the fear that they have and how fast it happened,
And
you know.
it seems like the tornado is hunting them.
Exactly. Like it
It doesn't feel
does.
like it doesn't feel like, oh, like I mean, I've been in some like I've been in some natural disasters, like, just or I've witnessed, I've never been in extreme danger, I don't think, but I've been close enough to a tornado to film it with my camera.
Oh,
I've been in a flood. Uh but it's, you can see it's not, you can just see that it is just nature, it's just weather. But like, yeah, in that scene, that must be how it truly does feel if you are in like if you're in the path
yeah.
of a tornado.
I don't
Uh,
oh, I don't know, but like I mean, I was in a car one time and hail started happening and the siren started going off on the radio and I was like, what is happening? And I was by myself and I felt like I was being chased by something, even though, and then once it said a tornado has touched down near a local Walmart, I looked around me, I did not see a Walmart and I got out of there. And I was just, but I felt like I was being chased, even
yeah,
though that's not what that is. But that
yeah,
is definitely like in that moment, no matter where she goes, it's coming after her, And I think it's also like probably a metaphor for like dealing with like the trauma that she's not really dealt with, And like
yeah,
it's coming back no matter what. It will always come back unless you actually go through it and come to the other side of it with like her recovery from it all. Cause like that's what she did. She just left. She never
yeah,
dealt with it. As we could tell when she first encounters one again in person, she's stunned. She can't even deal with it. And it's not at all coming after her,
yeah.
And so that's what I loved about that scene. It made it really personal.
It was so good to like, I mean, you're a parent. I'm a parent,
Hmm.
and you play a parent in the film, and there was
Yeah.
such a thing that I think mostly only parents really, I mean, everybody notices, like, an annoying dickhead, but
Yes.
but when you have a kid and it's like, hey, especially, like, in a situation where, like, "Hey, there's an emergency happening, like, can you like, so you're in the motel, there's an annoying dickhead bothering the front desk concierge,
Yeah.
bitching about the AC when a deadly tornado is coming. His partner is, she's over there yelling that there is no tornado, and she's,
Yeah.
like, there's no such thing as, it's 9 times out of 10 there's no tornado, like, and they're just both so insanely in the way, and so
Yes.
you as the mom are like, "I'm trying to get to safety, and I'm trying to get my
Yeah.
child to safety." I've never been in that situation, but I have been in a situation where, like, I'm carrying my kid, and I'm like, just some absolutely self-absorbed, you know,
Yeah.
person is, like, making things so hard, and they're just oblivious to the fact that, like, people are trying to, it's something that I didn't notice as much when I wasn't a dad, like,
Me too.
I used to
Me
just be like,
too.
I used to be like, "Ah, this dickhead," but now I'm like, "Oh, you're really in the way."
Yeah, no, you're like you've made this now harder for everybody. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and like that's what's so funny. My sister-in-law said the same thing. She was when we watched it at the premiere, she was just like, I wanted that guy to shut the fuck up, to shut
I
up.
know, I hated him.
Get on like she was like, because again, yeah, like I remember when I became a parent, the one of the first things I watched was the film Prisoners. And then we watched
Oh
True
my
Detective,
god.
the first
Oh
season. And
my
I was like, I was
god.
traumatized for
You
like a
can't
good,
watch
like,
those movies when you
like 2 months after I was like, I cannot watch a single thing with a child in it. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, like nursing my baby as we're watching these things. And I was like, I can't do this again to myself. And I think for me, I'm a little disconnected from this particular thing just because I worked on it. So
Yeah.
like my brain has already like comforted me, like, okay, this isn't real danger, yada, yada, yada. So, but when I usually watch anything with a child and there is danger, or is there anything that like a parent is trying to protect their child, like, oh, I get it. I get the tingles. I get everything. I get so like I get tense, stop. And so and I've gotten that a lot. I've been a little insufferable on TikTok when anytime a creator I really like has seen Twisters and they say how much they love it. I like to say, I'm in it. Like I play the mom in the empty pool scene. And it's been really wonderful, not only to obviously get strangers approval, which is terrible of me, but it's been a lot of parents. It's been like, oh my God, I felt like I loved your scene because I'm a parent and I felt it. I felt the terror. I felt like you also trying to be there for her. And like, um, so it was really cool when we were filming that because like I got to when Isaac was saying, okay, we're gonna improv things, we're gonna do this. Like I asked him, I was like, as a parent, like I get down on my kids' level. I don't really talk to them, especially when I really need to connect with them. I get down on their level, especially if I have to like let them focus and really listen to me. I was like, is it cool that I get down on her level? He's like, yes. Your mom instincts are coming in. Do whatever your mom instinct is telling you to do. And
Yeah.
so, and I've always just worked really well with kids in general, but yeah, I have got 2 little ones. And so to me, it was so easy to just like really my objective is to protect my child. But I also have to make sure I'm okay as well.
Yeah.
So it's so easy. And honestly, when you're working on something like this of this nature, and there's like wind machines, and there are like, I mean, you hear the roar of the fans, like it's so easy to just drop into the stakes of it and
Yeah.
just go. I mean, like you almost have to hold back. For me, like I almost had to hold back tears because like your body can put you into that emotional state really easily. It can trick you really easily that you're in danger. But I've been doing this for so long now that like my body also knows I'm not in real danger. And so I can come out of it like easy peasy lemon squeezy. But also I need to make sure that she, as an actress, that little girl, I need to make sure she's okay. Her parents aren't right next to her. They
Yeah.
have to be at Video Village sometimes, or they can't be right next to her all the time. And like, there have been times that, like when we got when they did, so much was practical too. So many practical effects, which is like really incredible to be a part of. And it can jolt your body. And like,
Yeah.
when the thing comes through the window, You don't see it, but that we had to take where we were kind of still in the office, me and the little girl, as we're running out. Because they sometimes would have two cameras on at once. So much was on Steadicam. And so the thing comes through the window. And when that happens, like that actually didn't physically happen. But what they do is they open up the window to make the glass come out. And what the glass is like this, well, for this one, it was like a squishy thing, like silicone kind of thing. And I mean, it's through a cannon though. I mean, it comes at you
Yeah.
and it's not supposed to hurt you, but it's so unexpected that you think it hurts you, but
Yeah.
it does, it scares you a little bit. And
Yeah.
so when we did it the first time, like it it scared me. I like definitely let out a little like scream, but she did too. And I could tell she was kind of rattled. And
Yeah.
so I was really grateful that I was there for her in the sense of like also being a parent, like being her pseudo parent in that moment until her mom or dad could come over to her. And so, and I could relay, like, I think she's a little tired, I think, like,
Yeah.
so, and I had a second AD come up to me and they were like, God, you're so good with kids. And I was like, well, I've got to. So
Yeah.
that's like,
I got
and
lots
a
of
lot
practice.
I've also had a lot of practice working with kids on sets too. I've played a mom, good God, since before I was a mom. And I've gotten pretty used to like how, I mean, they're all so different. And but kids, you gotta treat them with real respect, you don't talk down to kids,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I'm just really glad that this was my experience with her. And I think her experience was really great. And her parents were wonderful. And they're also in the business. So like it wasn't unfamiliar territory for them at all. So like overall, for it being super cold and getting wet in the rain at 29 degrees and having things flung at you, loud sounds. I mean, she was so good. And I think it was really ideal. Like everything was ideal. No meltdowns, nothing. And like, not only is the set like the people are the top of their field
Yeah.
and just doing it and watching it all, but it was smooth sailing. It was really smooth filmmaking. And like, I'm sitting there like, this is the biggest set I've ever worked on. But I've worked on all different kinds of sets at this point. And like horror, comedy, drama, and indie, and like, a little bit of a budget here and there, fast, slow. And so to me, like movie magic, I just like walked away from it that like it's real. Movie
Yeah.
magic is real.
Yeah.
And so it's in and of itself, even just being an observer, it was pretty incredible.
Samantha, I got to tell you one thing.
Yes.
We are getting dangerously close to the lightning round.
Okay.
And hey, I want to shout out to both of us for holding true to our promise that there would be some spoilers, but we would not give away the farm. We would not tell the end of the story.
Yeah.
We don't say, any important characters that might, well, I guess we did say some important characters that died, but we didn't do,
Yeah.
we kept it together. So anyone that hasn't seen the movie can still watch it and still enjoy it and still be
I
surprised.
think so. I think
Uh,
so too. Yeah.
let me tell you how the lightning round works. I ask you a series of
Okay.
questions as
Okay.
fast as I can. I don't write the lightning round. These are written by co-producer Colleen, so I
Oh
never
no.
know what I'm going to get. And I'm going to go ahead
Okay.
and tell you. Okay, well, here's interesting thing. Most people get really, really easy lightning rounds, and it looks like you got a science quiz.
No.
It's multiple choice, and
Okay.
I think
I can do that.
I honestly, with all the articles that your friends and family were sending you, you might have just caught some of this from there.
Yeah.
Uh, this is called the tornado round instead of lightning round. I like that.
Okay.
All
Tornado
right,
round.
let's hit it. Going into lightning round with Samantha Ireland. All right. Number one, the movie featured a piece of tech called Dorothy, a reference to to other Wizard of Oz characters. This was inspired by a real life tornado science project named in reference to. Sorry, this is kind of, I'm reading this weird. All right, so Dorothy, that the device, there
Yes.
that was named after a real scientific device that was like a prototype in the original Twister movie. So the
Yes.
question is, it was also named after a character in Wizard of Oz. The question is,
Right.
Which character was it? A, was it Toto? B, was it Glinda? Or C, was it Auntie M?
For this film?
No, the real life so the real life
Okay.
device that Dorothy was based on. So
Oh,
a real scientist in the 1990s developed a device that the filmmakers of the
oh, I
original
don't
Twist.
know. I'm gonna go with Toto.
You're correct. Toto is
Yeah.
it's an acronym. I don't know what it stands for, but good one. Hell yeah. All right, you're kicking ass. You're winning so far.
Already.
This
Woo
this is like the game part of the podcast, and this is where you
woo.
win points. Okay, number 2. Uh, which aspect of the movie is most based in reality? This is the movie that you were in, so Twisters.
Okay.
Diffusing a tornado with a powder mixture. That's A. B. Drilling a car into the ground inside of a tornado. Or C. Portable radars that collect data.
Oh no, because I could have sworn that storm chasers did do that recently. It was
I-
like drilling their things into the ground if it's a light tornado, but I don't know if that's real. But I feel like there are, I mean,
It's
I
so
feel
funny
like
because
they
most people get like a Mad Lib for their lightning round, and
oh
you got a science quiz.
I think I'm gonna go with C.
That is correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Portable radars that collect data is correct.
I think because
You're
they talked
killing
about
it.
it. There's new technology that they literally use in the film.
Yeah.
So and that they've been going to like climate change organization things and summits and talking about it. So
Yeah. Well, because they don't want all the meteorologists in the world to be like, this movie's fake. All right.
yeah, exactly.
Number 3. Which aspect of the movie poses real life challenges to getting people to safety during tornadoes? A. Tornadoes last hours long. B. Tornado sirens are not loud enough. C. Often having false alarms.
So the question is like which one was
Which one causes people to it's so what is causing the most real life challenges to get people to safety during a tornado when a tornado appears?
I think it's B that sirens aren't loud enough.
It is actually false alarms.
False D. Yeah, because people don't believe in them too. Like they're like, "Oh
Because
my god, another one." Yeah,
like that horrible woman in the scene that you're in, when you're trying
yeah.
to get to cover, she keeps
I
saying
was like, it's either B or C, but I also know that people complain that the sirens aren't loud enough in some areas.
yeah.
But like I guess in the movie, yeah, she does say C. Yeah. All right. I could have almost gotten 100% at that
Well,
point.
here's your chance to make a crazy comeback, and I think you're gonna
Okay.
get it. All right. What city featured in the film was the site of the widest ever recorded tornado? A. Sepulpa, B. El Reno, or C. Tulsa.
Well, I'm assuming it's A Sepulpa, right? Because that's the
I'm sad to say that's incorrect.
no.
It is El Reno,
Oh, we
uh,
know.
because that was a nod to the fact that the
Oh,
real city of Reno, Oklahoma, was devastated by the widest tornado ever to hit. So
okay. So I for some reason I keep thinking like Gerald was that one in Texas, but it's not. It's Reno. Okay.
oh no, it's
Oh,
the question was which city in the film. So that's
oh, wait,
why
I should have just
so
said, yeah,
because
because also I wasn't sure if the first one was though, because that's why it was so bad. But I don't even know if they were in Sepulpa when they did that one in the first scene. So like I should have just said them very, very like obviously they show us a water tower tank with the name on it. So I'm
it
like,
was you know what? It was a little bit sneaky. So
it's okay. We can handle it the sneakiness, but it just was very obvious though at the same time. So
well, Samantha, I have one last question for you, and
okay.
most important one of the day. Where can people find you, follow you, and all like any other projects you've got going on?
Mhm.
Like I know that you're doing production filmmaking, all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
Where can people check out your work, and where can people check out like what you're up to?
So I have a YouTube channel. I think I might dedicate a little bit more to my filmmaking thing. It's a really small channel. It's really just kind of based on my acting stuff. And then I have an Instagram and I have TikTok, and they're all at the underscore Sam underscore Ireland. And yeah, so I've been kind of slowly putting up my short films I've been doing over the years. And anytime I have a new project, I do as of right now, I think we're all kind of waiting to hear what's going to happen next on this particular anime that I've been on for quite some time, like over a decade at this point. The production company originally that made it was dissolved back in April, and the IP was bought by Viz Media, which is a very huge like anime based, I think, company on manga and everything. And so and I think they are taking everything over when it comes to merch and any kind of content that's going to be produced. I'm hoping we can continue our animated series because our story wasn't done yet when the company got dissolved by Warner Brothers Discovery, or like I think it's Warner Media. Oh, I can't remember. There's so many umbrellas at this point. Whatever it was
Yeah.
underneath, um, but you can find those episodes right now, I believe, on Crunchyroll and Amazon Prime, because my kiddo's been starting to watch them because he's old
Cool.
enough to start watching them now. So I do that. And then, yeah, like I don't have anything in the works right now. It's been a real slow year for entertainment. It's
Yeah.
been very slow. But we did get word a couple of hours ago that the Teamsters did come to um a tentative agreement with
All right.
AMPTP. So hopefully that means work will start picking up for all of us. But like, I mean, I haven't had an audition in like a month. So, which stinks,
Yeah.
considering like I'm kind of on a roll right now, being in like the number one box office movie, like
Yeah.
domestically. Well, not anymore. I'm sure Deadpool and Wolverine are now do that. But yeah, so we'll see. But I make my own stuff, and I'm not making anything as of right now, but I'm never not interested in like trying to make relationships happen and producing other people's content as well. Like a lot of the things that I do are online and available, whether they're on my social medias or I always share them too. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. I will check out your YouTube today. Uh
Thanks.
Samantha, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.